This is part B of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting under the Baby Angel Geronimo editions on the platform Baby Angel Geronimo editions on Wednesday, 28th of June 2023, which coincided with the Muslim festival or celebration of Eid Al Azha, the festival of sacrifice. And as we have said, we are pleading for all Muslims who have, that is to say, who have the resources, to share their resources and their wealth with their Muslim neighbors who haven't, and also with their non-Muslim neighbors who haven't. We believe that the time is absolutely due for the festival of Eid Al Azha to be extended to making the festival of sharing wealth and resources with people who don't have wealth or resources. We shall be continuing this throughout the week and beyond. This particular edition, part B, is being devoted to the baby Keddy, the baby kitten Keddy, who is from Istanbul but has been traveling across the world with his mommy and daddy. We found out only in the last hour or so the baby Keddy is seriously ill and is under serious threat. Now, we cannot provide physical help at this moment, at this rate, in the speed that is needed. What we can do and what we are doing is to start praying for the miracle, because the baby angel Kitty is a creation of God, and God, the merciful, has unlimited powers to make the baby kitten get out of the illness and danger that is threatening the baby now. And we quote from the Holy Quran: La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. Although this was part of the revelation in the Holy Quran dedicated to the issue of the Prophet who had been under threat from enemies, and a fish was ordered by God to rescue the Prophet who was under threat. And the fish rescued the Prophet and carried the Prophet in its tummy any distance under the sea, and then delivered the Prophet safe and well at a safe location any number of miles away. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. The zalimin is a plural Arabic, a plural of zalim. So whatever factors are affecting and threatening the safety of baby kitten Kitty, we are praying humbly to God to get rid of those threats and make the baby kitten perfectly healthy. We are urging God to grant our prayers for the baby Kitty. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. And we shall be silently praying as well for as long as we can. The Prophet of Islam, peace be on him, had one dedicated follower with him who was known to carry kittens with him every time he went about anywhere. And he was in the company of the Prophet, peace be on him. So the Prophet blessed them, and the Prophet loved kittens. And we are asking God, for the sake of the Prophet, to help the baby kitty kitty. And we shall be praying forever for the baby kitten. In Istanbul, this baby was seen by the human mom that has been keeping the baby now ever since they met. And the baby kitten followed the human female, human his mom or her mom, and was waiting at the door of their upstairs flat, which was not known to the human mom until they saw the kitten. And for all these years, the human mom and their human dad have been with the baby kitten, looking after the kitten. And we said to God to help them continue lovingly caring and protecting the baby. There is a mention in the Twitter account that the Caddy Kitty's mom runs. There are people all over the world that love the baby angel, the baby kitten, baby. We are joining with them and we are praying and we are asking for the help of God the merciful, the magnificent, the all-forgiving, the all-powerful God. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. So this is the edition of the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast under the banner of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions as part B for the date Wednesday the 28th of June. And this is the one that is coincidentally the absolute appropriate updater edition, because part A was broadcast during the morning of Wednesday, the 28th of June, hours before Daniel Korski, the one of the candidates for the London Conservative Party's official nomination as the official candidate for the Conservatives at the forthcoming election for the post of mayor at the expense of London. And this woman called Daisy Goodwin has appeared almost like a miracle. And she has started a process by updating her account of this Korski sexually assaulting her 10 years ago, approximately, at a meeting that she, in good faith, had attended about a television program supposedly to promote British business, etc., etc. So Daisy Goodwin, sorry, I keep confusing the two surnames, Goodman and Goodwin. I shall explain that confusion later. Because Goodman was the name that was very much in my mind for a very long time. As one of the licensed law traders, licensed as a sole cheater, otherwise known as solicitor, and an very close advisor to the Labour Party's Prime Minister at the time, Harold Wilson. So Goodwin is not as firmly embedded in my mind as good man. I apologize for that, but that's the explanation. Our memory, our brain works in very unique ways, and you don't know how various words remain there and other words don't remain there. Going back to the issue of Daisy Goodwin, in good faith attending a meeting which was initiated by Daniel Korski. Now, Daniel Korski at that time during the meeting was employed as a what they call special advisor, abbreviated to SPAD, SPAD, which is the abbreviation that Daisy Goodwin has used in her first article about the disgraceful behavior of this Korski, published by the Times on the 26th of June. Now, ever since that article got circulated, others have followed, especially the Daily Mail, and it appears that the other papers have also followed the key substance of Daisy Goodwin's allegations and details. During our first broadcast in the morning of Wednesday, the 28th of June 2023, Daniel Korski was in the news, still reportedly reiterating and defiantly, categorically denying the allegations that had been made against him. As one of the commenters have said, or as one of the commenters has said, since he resigned, I saw that since he resigned, that at no point, at no time, has Korski actually denied having touched Daisy Goodwin's breast, which is what the allegation was. And I have checked the video, and in the video, Korski uses the form of words, I did not do what has been alleged. Now that can be a craftily drafted kind of corrupt wording by a corrupt lawyer. Because if this is challenged, then he can be open to or able to say he didn't deny that he touched Daisy Goodwin's breast. He could say he denied other things in the allegations. And other things included the other things that Daisy Goodwin has published, included the fact that he sat in a room called Thatcher room. These conservatives are really very funny. Thatcher room. The well, we are searching for the Thatcher room, and I'll come back with the actual quote. So, in her piece in the Times, Daisy Goodwin says that his behavior was odd, and then odder still was the fact that when we both sat down at the round table, the SPAD, that is special advisor, put his feet on the edge of my chair, that is Daisy Goodwin's chair, leaning back like that, so that I, that is Daisy Goodwin, could get a clear view of his penis. She uses the word crotch, but I am broadcasting to an international audience who may not be familiar with the colloquial meaning or word crotch, which is penis. Now, this very creepy individual has been differently presented by the so called ex wife of Michael Gove, a woman who is being given increasingly wider space and more prominent space by the Daily Mail. Sarah Vane, whose name I have edited on her records as Sarah Vanity. Sarah Vanity has jumped in with her excuse, with her excuse in support of Daniel Korski. Because the Daily Mail published the piece following the Times as an exclusive on the 27th, which is Tuesday. The Times published the original piece on the Monday, which is the 26th of June, and the Daily Mail published a version on the 27th of June. And in the Daily Mail's version on the 27th of June, I will come to that. Now, I'm reading the transcript, unedited transcript of the broadcast that I made earlier about Sarah Vanity. And this is the one that I'm looking for the actual exact words. There's a lot of words in there. So, what I said in the previous comment, today she has got on the front page, that is Sarah Vanity, the top of the front page of the Daily Mail of that day, that is Wednesday, is how I had my breasts groped, she says. At number 10, now this is an exact mirror, as I said, of what Daisy, repeat of the original Daisy Goodwin headline, except that she said our vanity has substituted, that is, replaced the name of the group or Korski with the name of the well known British comedian Harry Enfield. Now, what Harry Enfield did was nothing to do with him sexually assaulting her. It was a staged event, with Sarah Vanity enjoying the staged event, as she actually describes in the piece on page 15 of the Daily Mail. So, the fact that she did that, she did a whole long piece on page 15 trying to discredit the account and the personality and the character and the judgment of Daisy Goodwin, which is exactly what on BBC Radio 4 later on that day, Monday morning, the BBC Radio 4's one of the leading women presenters, Martha Kearney, tried to do when she interviewed Daisy Goodwin. Martha Kearney actually questioned the integrity, the honesty, and the accuracy of the recollection of the incident when she, Daisy Goodwin, had been sexually assaulted by Daniel Korski. And to quote Sarah Vanity about the party that she misdescribes it as the one where she was groped by Harry Enfield, quoting Sarah Vanity from my transcript. I was standing around as you do, glass in hand, there is wine, chatting to various people. When Harry Enfield, the comedian, joined the conversation, I remember it was very loud and everyone was a bit hyper, all overexcited about being there. Enfield, I think, was slightly in his cups. I can't remember what I was wearing. But at one point, my gay friend, notice the use of the two concepts, what she was wearing and her gay friend. But one point, my gay friend commented on my dress and said, if in an Oscar Wilde sort of voice, Oscar Wilde was a playwright, was homosexual, was a gay, that it made my breasts, that is Sarah Vanity's breasts, look rather magnificent. Now, why would Sarah Vanity do that if she was not vain and overly trying to draw attention to herself? She's supposed to be talking about the allegation made by Daisy Goodwin against a potential candidate to become mayor at the expense of London. She's not talking about that. She's talking about her breasts. And she's talking about her breasts being rather magnificent. Now, who wants to know that? Not necessarily. Most certainly not us. Then in the next column paragraph, she says, everyone laughed, including Enfield. And Phil then said something along the line, so do you mind if I have a go? That is, grabbing her breasts? Question mark. Before grabbing them, that is her breasts, in both hands and sort of juggling them around with enthusiasm. That I must confess, another took me and everyone else by surprise. Afterwards, I really wasn't sure what to make of it. I wasn't particularly upset after all. Why would she be upset? She was asking for it, literally asking for it. Magnificent, etc., etc. He had it in full view of everyone, so there is no shortage of witnesses. But it did rather take the wind out of my sails. That is, it kind of slowed her down. In the end, I decided to file it under someone having a bit of fun at my expense. And not long afterwards, Enfield released a sketch in which two posh old blokes appear, played by him and Paul Whitehouse. And they're sitting in a gentleman's club just discussing my ex, that is her alleged ex husband, Michael Gove. And what? I met his wife once. She's a fine woman, says Enfield. And then it says, I want you to grope her breasts. Now, all of this is supposed to be about the very serious allegation made by Daisy Goodwin about a potential candidate to run as the candidate on behalf of the Conservative Party for the post of elected mayor at the expense of London. But here is nothing to do with that. It's all about Sarah Vanity's breasts, and what she's trying to get across, that is to say, to inform the readers about, is that her breasts are more gropeable, attractable than Daisy Goodwin's. Now, that was followed, of course, because that appeared, the Daily Mail appears in about the late hours of the previous day. So the Today program reads all the newspapers, and they decided to include an item on the running order, as they say, featuring Daisy Goodwin. And in the course of the questioning of Daisy Goodwin by Martha Kearney said to Daisy Goodwin whether what she was saying about her being sexually assaulted did actually happen. Now, Martha Kearney is a leading kind of recipient, if you like, of the plaudits, promotion, praise by the British establishment as a leading woman journalist, thinker, etc., etc. And of course, by extension, a leading feminist, an advocate of women's rights. And here was the same Kearney trying to deflate the very credible account that has been given by the victim of the sexual assault, asking her if what she was saying was true or she was lying. And there was a long pause after she asked Daisy Goodwin that question. And then Daisy Goodwin came back and said to Martha Kearney that that was not the right kind of question, that she was there and she felt it and she could not forget what happened. And it was embarrassing and it was humiliating. So after that, people who heard that interview noted how Martha Kearney was being unfair and was being worse than Sarah Vanity in her attitude. And so people contacted the BBC and expressed their opinion. And of course, they published condemnation of Martha Kearney on their social media accounts. And we demanded that the BBC apologize to Daisy Goodwin and the sack Martha Kearney. All of these happened during the day. By the end of the afternoon, the things were happening between the UK central government department, which is called the Cabinet Office, which is the main bureaucratic center of the government of the day, and the Conservative Party, which is the political party. And they were still continuing and debating as to which one of them was responsible, was to be liable for answering for the discredited behavior alleged against Daniel Korski. This was going on all day until around 5 o'clock local time, that is 1600 hours GMT on Wednesday, 28th of June 2023. Daniel Korski issued a statement in which he said he resigned, he's quitting the race, and he was still being dishonest. He blamed the pressure that his being in the news was bringing on his family. Now, what kind of family was he referring to? He didn't make clear. But when he was in his late 30s, in 2013, when he did assault Daisy Goodwin, Did he have a family? And if he had a family, what kind of transparency did he show to them about what he was up to at his workplace? Of course, the statement didn't say anything, but he did resign, which is exactly what we predicted would happen. We predicted that he is first of all denied, and then this will continue. And after a while, he will go. After Daisy Goodwin made her very detailed statements, naming him and accusing him of touching her breast, there was no way this Korski could remain in the Conservative Party's mayoral run. No way. Because it happened in the recent past, that is when Theresa May was the Conservative Prime Minister following the creep Dave Cameron, and two of Theresa May's cabinet ministers had to resign after women came forward and alleged sexual misconduct on their part, these ministers. One of the women who came forward said that this minister concerned had put his hand on her thigh. And just like Sarah Vanity, trying to discredit her, a fascist, racist, who has been given increasingly wide platform by the fascists owning the mainstream media, whose name is Julia, and our campaign calls her Julia Heartless Screwer. She said that some years ago somebody put their hand on her thigh, but it didn't cause her any damage at all. Completely misunderstanding the whole point. But despite the fact that Julia Heartless Screwer came to discredit the accuser, that minister had to go as well. And during Boris Johnson's tenure, there were countless people who were the subject of allegations. Of course, nobody is subject of more allegations than Boris Johnson in the history of the British government. I don't think in the last 300-400 years. And the private lie, which is the latest issue, is due to be officially published on Friday, but it's available on Wednesday in central government, London bookshops or newsagents, carries an update on Boris Johnson's job, that he has been given the job as a columnist by Paul Dacre at the Daily Mail. And the first column that Johnson wrote dealt with Johnson waking up in the middle of the night and going for the fridge and eating a lot of cheese. Now, Private Eye has dug up articles that have appeared under Johnson's name over the last 21 or 22 years in various titles. And the same overnight consumption of cheese appears in all these items that they've dug up. Now, the irony of that is that the Daily Mail, when introducing Johnson as their world famous columnist, described Johnson and his contribution as being eagerly waited for by the worldwide readership. Now, somebody writing about cheese, every other article, every other kind of column cannot be even decently mentioned, let alone be the subject of worldwide readership. There is no mystery, there is no mystique, there is nothing in there. As the latest book about Johnson by Anthony Seldon says, Boris Johnson is an extraordinarily empty individual. He hasn't got any brains. He hasn't got any intellect, which is a form of saying what Matthew Paris, in one of his columns in February 2023, said in the Times. He said Boris Johnson was a dogmas on Britain's pavement. That is the depth of depravity, evilness, and worthlessness, emptiness, and filth, which is what Boris Johnson is. So when we say that baby angel Geronimo is witnessing the depravity and evilness of Boris Johnson, the depravity and evilness of the British establishment and the institutions that Boris Johnson once led as the holder of the post of the UK's Prime Minister. That is what we meant. That the criminality, the cruelty, the lack of compassion, that the evilness at DEFRA reserved to target baby angel Geronimo with in the demonizing agenda, that could only come from people of this kind of darkness, evilness, filth, and cruelty. What the Islamic scholars concerned have described the place where the Prophet of Islam was sent, what is now called Saudi Arabia. It was the age when the Prophet was sent. The age was called the age of darkness, the era of darkness, Ayyam-e-Jahiliyat. What the little Englanders cannot understand, because they are not educated and enlightened, needs to be explained. Britain, when it has been, quote, represented by the congenital liar Boris Johnson imposed as Prime Minister, is a Britain in the age of darkness. Even Michael Heseltine, a Conservative former cabinet minister, even John Major, a former Conservative Prime Minister, were forced to come out in the public domain time after time and refer to the behavior of Boris Johnson as resembling, and I'm paraphrasing what they said because they obviously didn't derive their inspiration from the tenets and the traditions of the Holy Quran. But they effectively meant that Boris Johnson was darkness. Many of the observers, including Peter, is it Peter? Let's check the name of this individual because I don't want to give the wrong part of the name. So here is this name. This guy is called Peter Owen, of course. And in a post online dated the 29th of November 2021, a woman called Bridget Osborne writes on the website the Chiswick calendar. Well, the Chiswick calendar, they refer to the activities going on in West London. We'll come to that shortly. And here she says Peter Oborne, Oborne, lists Boris Johnson's lies in new website. And there is a cartoon by Martin Rosen depicting Boris Johnson as the liar. And Bridget Osborne writes, our Prime Minister tells lies. That is a fact proven over and over again. On a new website authorized by political journalist Peter Oborne. Not only that, but many of the government do too. That is to say, many of the government departments, like in the context of baby angel Geronimo, his attackers, DEFRA, tell lies as well. Now, the Scottish National Party leader in the House of Commons at the time, that is at the time of this article in November 2021, because Ian Blackford is no longer leader of the SNP in the House of Commons. So the SNP Commons leader, Ian Blackford, has been sanctioned for saying so. Labour MP Don Butler was thrown out of the Commons for saying so. Yet gradually, because of the perseverance of Peter Oborne and journalists like him, like Peter Stefanovic, LBC presenter, James O'Brien, and the full fact team, steadily producing a mountain of incontrovertible evidence, the elephant in the room is beginning to be addressed in mainstream media. Now, of course, that article was 2 years old. Johnson is no longer a member of parliament now. No longer is he prime minister. And it's very hard to see Boris Johnson as an MP again, let alone as a member, as the prime minister again. But this is time, let's say 2 years ago, when to say that Johnson is no longer prime minister, no longer even a member of parliament, would be treated as a hypothesis, as a weak hypothesis, not even a strong one. This is no longer a hypothesis, this is reality. And what has happened in the latest behavior of a conservative politician, although he's, in terms of the experience, he is of a lower rank than Boris Johnson was allowed to reach. Daniel Korski. Let's see what the latest treatment by the media of Korski is doing there on this fact that he resigned. Now they have moved on from Korski to, as I said earlier, Martha Kearney. The main item on the Daily Mail 3 hours ago, the Daily Mail, of course, will have it in its edition, print edition on Thursday, 29th of June 2023. So the headline is BBC star, that is Martha Kearney, is accused of victim blaming for asking Daisy Goodwin if she, Daisy Goodwin, was certain that she, Daisy Goodwin, was groped, that is, sexually assaulted by Korski. This is the piece in the Daily Mail website. Let's see what it reads in detail. BBC star Martha Kearney is accused of victim blaming for asking Daisy Goodwin if she was absolutely certain she was groped by former London mayoral candidate Daniel Korski. Now, this was updated at 0039 hours UK time on Thursday, the 29th, which is just half an hour ago. So, the opening paragraph to this piece, written by David Churchill, chief political correspondent of One Line Daily Mail, says the BBC presenter sparked a backlash yesterday after asking Daisy Goodwin if she was absolutely certain she was groped by former London mayoral hopeful Daniel Korski. Ms. Goodwin appeared on Radio 4's Today program to talk about her ordeal. At one point, host Martha Kearney asked her, "And are you absolutely certain about what happened to you? It was 10 years ago. Could there be any ambiguity about it?" Miss Goodwin replied, "I am really surprised you are asking me that, Martha." Quote, "Yes, it happened to me 10 years ago. But when something like this happens to you know that it has happened to you because you were there, you felt it. You felt amazed, shocked, and rather humiliated. I mean, to ask me if I'm certain is to ask me if I'm making it up, that is lying. That's not the case. Some social media users hit out at Miss Kearney for victim blaming. Others posted that it was appalling and inappropriate. Mandu Reid, leader of the Women's Equality Party, said one thing there is no ambiguity about is that impact that questions like that aimed at Daisy Goodwin this morning has on women. This question is a perfect example of how women are routinely undermined when they report harassment or abuse. It immediately puts a question mark over the woman's credibility and integrity. This is serious because the fear of being disbelieved prevents women from coming forward. It makes it takes enormous courage to speak out publicly, as Daisy Goodwin has done, especially when the alleged perpetrator is a powerful, high profile man. Well, he's not a high profile man anymore. and it will not be for a significant amount of foreseeable future time. So that's the Daily Mail online talking about Martha Kearney and the BBC allowing Martha Kearney one of the comments, and there is not a lot of comments in there on the Daily Mail online, and this one says, innocent till proven guilty. He may be innocent, but his career is now ruined, says one of the commenters. Now, of course, his career is ruined and should be ruined. We'll go further than that. We'll say that the post of mayor at the expense of London should never have been created. No amount of betting, no amount of betting could have stopped Ken Livingstone, Boris Johnson getting in. Remember the whole kind of propaganda war that was fought during the months in the run up to the election, the first election, the 2000 election, for the post of mayor at the expense of London. Ken Livingstone was demonized by the Labour Party because Tony Blair, as the leader of the Labour Party at that time, decided that Livingstone was not part of his agenda, this is Tony Blair's agenda politically. So Blair wanted somebody else other than Ken Livingstone. But Livingstone was selected, and Tony Blair, in order to get rid of Livingstone, he expelled Ken Livingstone from the Labour Party and inserted in his place, as the Labour Party's official candidate for the post of mayor of London at the expense of the people of London, a complete, absolute political embarrassment called Frank Dobson. Frank Dobson was so totally stupid, and I shall come to that, that Daisy, what is her second name now? Daisy McAndrew now, when she was still working in the House of Commons as an aide to the then Liberal Party in Parliament, she appeared on the ITV London program, or a slot in the ITV network in London, and was interviewed by a racist cunt, Alistair Stewart. And in talking to Alistair the cunt Stewart, Daisy McAndrew described Frank Dobson as Dobbo Dobson, because it was her that called him Dobbo Dobson, and no one else had done that to my knowledge. It has stuck in my mind, and I have always remembered the whole interview. Now, Dobbo Dobson, as I said earlier, was an idiot, because Dobbo Dobson, years after getting defeated by Ken Livingstone at the 2000 election, surfaced in Tower Hamlets twice during the year 2010. Both times as the kind of surrogate father, political father of Abbasuddin alias Halal. Abbasuddin alias Halal, for mysterious reasons, treated Frank Dobodovson as his political father. Why? Because Abbasuddin alias Halal got employment in Camden Borough Council or in the Camden Borough Council area. And he knows better than anybody else. The role played by Frank Dobodovson in placing Abbasuddin alias Halal in those jobs by Frank Dobson was more significant than the role played by anybody else. For which reason, Abbasuddin alias Halal became more than 100% a devotee to the hidden talents and qualities of Frank Dobodovson. What must have happened was that Frank Dobodovson treated Abbasuddin alias Halal as one of the ethnic surrogates that he could train and mold and modify and use for his propaganda exhibitions. So, years later, what happened in 2010 was when Abbasuddin alias Halal was on parade to become the candidate of the Labour Party. Frank Dobodovson came to Tower Hamlets at the invitation of Abbasuddin alias Halal and spoke publicly as if what he said counted for more than what anybody else said or all the other people present had said combined. Of course, Frank Dobodovson failed to get the people of Tower Hamlets to vote for Abbasuddin alias Halal. But before that, again he appeared in Tower Hamlets, again at the invitation of Abbasuddin alias Halal, but to argue the case against the post of executive mayor. But again, despite the fact that Abbasuddin alias Halal brought Frank Dobodovson as the main speaker, the cause which Abbasuddin alias Halal had invited Frank Dobodovson to advance was lost. Why? Because on both occasions, Frank Dobodovson spoke as a complete and utter fucking idiot. He had no idea about Tower Hamlets. He had no idea about democracy. He had no idea about the corruption that is built in the system of the local councils anywhere. And he most certainly didn't know anybody other than Abbasuddin alias Halal in Tower Hamlets. I have been doing campaigns defending the community despite the fact that the community is made up of so many crooks and idiots. Collectively, I have been campaigning for the defense of the community on the ground for what? 52 years, I would say. And eventually, actually, for more than 60 years. Now, all the campaigns that have happened in defending the community, in identifying the community, in creating an identity of the community, cannot be conceived of outside of the range of campaigns and activities that I have been doing. And yet, Frank Dobodovson has not heard of one single one of those. So, Frank Dobodovson was issuing empty paragraphs and empty slogans and phrases in his two appearances, apparently to help his ethnic surrogate adoptee, Abbasuddin alias Halal. And he failed, as did Abbasuddin alias Halal. Now, the latest so called election for the post of mayor at the expense of Tower Hamlets that took place on the 5th of May 2022. That election was abandoned by the Labour Party in Tower Hamlets, including Abbasuddin alias Halal, because they heavily got defeated by the non-Labour Party people who were mobilized via the East London Mosque, the Council of Mosques, and other spiritual corrupted aspects of the Islamic operations in Tower Hamlets. Now, this is now 14 months since the 5th of May 2022 election. And as far as I can see, there is no sign anywhere publicly accessible about any of the needs of the people in the community being even recognized by the Labour Party. And of course, they will not be recognized by the faction that has given Lutfur Rahman the excuse to claim that he is the re-elected mayor at the expense of Tower Hamlets. Because Lutfur Rahman is in place by the abuse of the East London Mosque, by the gang of criminals that abuse the name of the mosques, and other criminals that have been responsible for the brainwashing of these girls, starting with Sharmina Begum in December 2014, who went to Syria, followed by the three other girls, Shamima Begum, Amira Abbasi, and Khadija Sultana. The Tower Hamlets population, the demography, the electorate, is totally abandoned by the gangsters that operate behind Lutfur Rahman, but from bases in the complex that includes the East London Mosque, the London Muslim Centre, and operated by the individual mosques spread across Tower Hamlets, collectively known as the Tower Hamlets Council of Mosques. There is nothing comparably organized by the Labour Party in Tower Hamlets to confront them, to contradict them, to oppose them, to hold them to account. And that is only between the Muslim backgrounded population. When you look at the non-Muslim ones in the population and non-Muslim ones in the Tower Hamlets Labour Party, you find that they are not only as hostile as Theresa May was to the Windrush generation, but they are even more hostile than Tommy Robinson and other anti-Muslim criminals, full of hatred and forever inciting the non-Muslim members of the Labour Party against the Muslim members of the Labour Party. So we've got in Tower Hamlets a crisis that is sinking the entire population into lack of rights, lack of service from the council. We shall be continuing on updating on all of those. And we shall be updating on the lessons and the teachings of the Eid Al Azha in later editions. We shall be, of course, dealing with the latest evidence about the behavior of the London Metropolitan Police in secretly hiding, sabotaging the investigation into the racist murdering Stephen Lawrence 30 years ago. So we shall be ending this one at 1 hour 11 minutes, and the time is 00:57 hours GMT on Thursday, the 29th of June 2023. This is part B. We have broadcast under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo editions.